In 1941, during the trial of labor leader Harry Bridges, Seldes wrote a series of articles on the FBI. He documented its infiltration of labor unions, its keeping of dossiers, and its use of provocateurs to undermine labor and political organizations. In response, Seldes received a 15-page letter from the Bureau's director. It was the beginning of a lively correspondence between the two men.
Dear Mr. Seldes, the FBI is a fact-finding organization which has for its objective the preservation and protection of civil liberties. The FBI does not perform anti-labor espionage. No citizen has been harassed or intimidated by any special agent of the FBI or by me. The activities of the FBI have always been open and above board. I shall observe with interest the action you take, since you have been advised of the facts. Very truly yours, John Edgar Hoover.
Seldes stood by his story, but he soon discovered that Hoover was, indeed, observing his work with interest.
The commandant of the U.S. recruiting station at a town called Marfa, Texas. I never heard of it before or after, but apparently it was a recruiting town, wrote me saying that an agent of the FBI has arrived and he's taking names of every soldier who subscribes to InFact. And I didn't know how true that was.
Dear Mr. Seldes, I have been employed at Fort Mammoth. Last week, I was called suddenly to the Office of Intelligence. What follows is a portion of the investigation. Question: what do you know about a publication called InFact? The following Thursday, I was dismissed from government service.
Dear Mr. Seldes, you might be interested in this from Coast Guard Intelligence. Investigator, have you any affiliation with the Communist Party? I replied, no, sir. Why do you ask? Investigator, that copy of InFact. He confiscated my notes for a book I'm writing. He also took the copy of InFact.
Every time I wrote to Hoover, he wrote me a denial, said such a thing is impossible and can't happen in this republic, and it's not true.
Then one day, Seldes received a piece of mail that seemed to settle the issue.
I think it was just an error. She saw my name and address in there and put it in and wrote it on the envelope and sent me the letter instead of sending it to the FBI. But it was mailed to me and I had the evidence. It's a letter from the assistant postmaster in South Norwalk addressed to the FBI agent in charge, New Haven, Connecticut. And all it says was that the following pieces of mail have been received today. And so there were no Xeroxing those days. I had to have a photograph made of this letter, and I made the photograph and sent it to J. Edgar Hoover, and I never heard from him again.
People called her and they wrote to cancel their subscription, that they were afraid to have the subscription. We went from 176,000 down probably by 40,000 in the space of, months or a year.
The cold witch hunt of today attempts to make the nation reactionary in a legal manner. It has already frightened many who believe in the Constitution of the United States.
You overruled except if you...
I think McCarthy and what he stood for and what was happening in America had an effect on George that was much, much deeper and important than just the fact that it hurt his subscribers list and finally killed, in fact, I think we have to say. I think what mattered to him is that it was happening in America.
History with variations is repeating here what I saw happening in Italy, in Germany. Red baiting, anti-labor violences, hoodlums of the American Legion breaking up meetings are small manifestations, but nevertheless important, significant, dangerous. The reactionaries are in power, In the press, in politics, everywhere. The voices against reaction are few and small. You must do something.
Once the most popular newsletter of the left, in fact had been abandoned by communists, by fearful progressives, by liberals. In October 1950, after 10 years of press criticism and reporting, Seldes published his final issue.
I think it was very sad for him. It took away his professional reason for being alive, and it took away his voice with which he communicated with people. He was a publisher, and to be a newspaper publisher and then simply not to be is a very hard thing to do. You're plugged into this circuit which is pounding away all the time, and then somebody pulls the plug and the life goes out of you.
Apathy is the curse of civilization.